Welcome to, I guess, the Bears Victory Monday edition of
Yay.
Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. Number 2, you can catch any of our 5 live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. If you happen to miss it, that's okay, especially during this time of year. You can download and listen to and watch them at your own leisure. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. And make sure you also follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you could do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We know unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. And also, if you have a comment or a question for us during any of our topics on today's show during this 2-hour extravaganza, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or do something sneaky, Lakeena will give you the Bill and Beer boot.
Bye-bye.
Lakeena, I've just been handed some information here. I want to give it out to the masses. And I don't know how we were going to react, but I must get this out. Nick Foles, 24-35, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, and a quarterback rating of 98.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
I guess. Yay. Yay. Okay.
David Montgomery, 21 carries, 45 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, wait, there's more. Khalil Herbert, 2 carries, 21 yards, and a 20-yard run for a touchdown.
Yay!
But wait, there's more.
Oh, there's more? Oh, goodness.
Yeah, there's more. You can't make this stuff up. David Montgomery led the team in receptions with 7 for 61 yards. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 57 yards. Jimmy Graham, 2 catches, 31 yards in the game-tying score. I guess this is something to celebrate. Yay!
Woo-hoo! Yay!
But wait, there's more.
Oh, there's
Jameer
more?
Byrd had 1 catch for 11 yards, and he had the quote-unquote game winner with the 2-point conversion. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, wait, there's more.
Oh, good Lord, there's more?
I know. It's shocking. Let me see here. Tajay Gibson, half a sack. Bilal Nichols, half a sack. Robert Quinn, 1 sack. Brings your total to 2. So the Bears defense, I guess, on the stat sheet stepped up and sacked Mr. Russell Wilson twice.
Yay! Yay!
But wait, there's more.
Oh, goodness sakes.
After all this, I didn't watch a minute of the game. Yay!
Yay! Woohoo! Yay! Yeah, that's me too.
The only clips that I saw was on NFL Red Zone, and that made me happy. Lakeena, both teams are now 5-10 on the year. We're referring to the Bears' 25-24 win over the Seattle Seahawks in that snowstorm up there in Seattle. The Bears, Lakeena, I don't know what you guys talked about before I hopped on Sean and Maya's show earlier today regarding the Bears, but Lakeena, I could I could get upset, but I'm not going to. I know that we know that this team wasn't going anywhere this year. I know they won, but and this is rare for me, especially at this stage of my life. But I'm just numb. Maybe I'm out, but maybe something wrong with me. I don't know, but yesterday just made me felt numb. Maybe get help. I don't know.
I didn't care. I'll be like I was telling Shannon, like, okay, I ended up watching most of since the Steelers Chiefs game was a blowout too. So, and I wasn't really interested in the Bears Seahawks, so I ended up watching most of the Denver Vegas game via this device here. So I wasn't interested in this game either. I mean, a key to leave. We might get him again this week because the Giants and the Bears with no playoff implications or basically nothing, period. So that there was really we might get him again, but yeah, I mean, look, okay, yeah, you won. Okay, you're 5-10. Bravo. Okay, good for them. Look, David Montgomery had actually had like 106 yards both rushing and receiving, so he was used on both fronts. I mean, like Nick Foles, yeah, he threw a touchdown, but he was sacked 4 times. And there was Seattle had their chance to kind of put this game away. Jason Myers missed a field goal that would have iced the game for Seattle, so that changed the trajectory of that game. And look, okay, fine, okay, good. The Bears, you didn't give up. When y'all were down, y'all were able to catch up. Okay, whatever. Like I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this because for me, the rest of these 2 games are kind of more of an afterthought, especially this week's game against the Giants. So I'm like, okay, but like I was telling Sean and I was advised folks, don't be surprised if the Bears end up winning their last 2 and somehow everything's still status quo. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but you never know.
Let me address the Nick Foles situation. I was driving around running some errands on Christmas Eve, and I was listening to our buddy Mark Roydy from 670 The Score in Chicago. Good friend, a great friend, great broadcast. He's a Bears sideline reporter for WBBM for the Bears games, and he's a great friend of the show. And I got the notification on my phone. I was like I mentioned, I was driving around. Nick Foles is slated to start against the Seahawks. And I said, and I had to post on my Insta stories. If you follow me on SidKid80 on Instagram, I had an emoji of a heartbreak in my face over my head. And I said, what could possibly go wrong? Okay. And immediately when I got home, I went back in my memory bank to a conversation. I think Christine brought this up a couple weeks ago, that you should start Nick Foles. We kind of laughed and said no, but I was also thinking that if Matt Nagy, he knows that he's no longer going to be here for now. But if Matt Nagy wants to go out his way, be you, why not start Nick Foles? Now, yesterday's performance, the numbers that we just gave you guys, it's gonna justify Matt Nagy that he knows what he's doing, especially during this quote unquote tough time. And I kept thinking, is Matt Nagy really being realistic about this season or about his situation? Or is his ego taking over? And I decided it's his ego taking over, but at the same time, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, at this point of the season, you're just like, okay, can we just get these last 2 games over with? That's where I am. That's where, look, I know they wanted to. I know Bruce Orr. That's the other guy. That's the other guy I was thinking of. That played at Seattle. Also, too, Jimmy Graham. Oh, look, Jimmy Graham actually showed up and actually caught the ball. Well,
right.
Yay
We'll give him an extra clap.
Woohoo! Yeah, playing against his former team. But yeah, I mean. And look, I like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this game because to me, I'm more empathetic to the Bears at this point. Okay, you look like you got a pretty good, Roquan Smith, did his thing, led the team in tackles, 7 solo tackles and 9 total tackles. They got to work with Russell Wilson twice. I mean, but then Foles got sacked 4 times, so Tevin James had to go out with an injury, with a shoulder injury, so that. That was another thing, but okay, Daz Newsome, who we actually saw, looked okay, didn't like really, dazzle anybody, but dazzle, you get it, but yeah, I mean, it's just like, okay, yay, yippee. I mean, Jameer Bird looked good. I mean, again, he's probably just auditioning for a spot next year. Mooney, he has some big catches, so did David Montgomery, has some big runs to keep drives alive for the Bears. Okay. Yippee. I don't care at this point. Like I said, I kind of kept the game in the background. So, like I said, can we just hurry up along so because we got other big games, other big news to sort of talk about in the
NFL. Welcome back, our friend, Mr. Armando Lara Jr. He says, hello. I hope you two had a Merry Christmas. We hope you had the same for you, Mr. Jr. We hope you had a happy and safe holiday. And he's referring to my commentary on Matt Nagy. Yep, it's definitely ego, and
Oh yeah.
you definitely cannot deny that. But the last issue I wanted to address on this show before we move on, Sean brought it up with you and brought it up with yours truly on his show earlier today during Crosstalk. We know that the new rule is now that NFL teams can start talking to candidates 2 weeks, last 2 weeks of the regular season. Of course, unless something shocking happens tomorrow at Hallis Hall, I don't see anything happening. And I was thinking about this yesterday before the game as I kept hearing about this. And I said, would it be typical Bears if the Bears would gotten their butts blown off in Seattle, especially in that snowstorm, getting beat 34-10, 44-0, something like that? Just maybe the Bears would have made a change. Now, I definitely would have thought that the Bears would have made a change if they were lost to the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. We know about Mark Conkle and that whole situation. Of course, the Bears tried to cover it up, and they fell flat on their face. But unless the Bears really got embarrassed yesterday, I'm not gonna. I don't expect Matt Nagy to be released tomorrow. I don't. They're just going to finish out the season. Whatever happens after that happens.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Like I said, if they end up winning their last two games, look, they're both very winnable. Well, the Giants, leaving the Giants out of it, but the Vikings, like I said before, it'll depend on where they are. Playoff positioning wise, it's all going to be in that front. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not putting it out there, folks. I'm not saying I know anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Nagy and they keep Pace. But also too, I mean, they're not going to do anything. I mean, that's not what the Bears do. So, it's at this point you're kind of like, you know what? Let's just keep it moving because I'm at that point where I'm like, let's just finish the season because we got better football, to discuss.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the, I guess, Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 colors. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, let's go to the rest of the NFL action. We'll start from the games from over the weekend. We'll start with last Thursday's action between the Tennessee Titans and the San Francisco 49ers. The Titans pick up a 2017 victory after trailing by 10 points at halftime. Jimmy Garoppolo, 26 of 35 for 322 yards and a touchdown. He had a crucial turnover in the late stages of that game. 14 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown for Jeff Wilson Jr. for the 49ers. And Deebo Samuel had 9 catches, 159 yards for the 49ers. The Titans are now 10-5 on the season, and they're one of the top teams in the AFC. Can they possibly get home field advantage?
They could. I mean, there's a lot of openings there. We'll get to that in a second. But where were the adjustments for the 49ers in the second half? I mean, I think that the first interception that Jimmy G threw, I think that led to a touchdown for Tennessee. So that kind of opened the door up for them to come back. And they didn't run the ball as much in the second half either. And look, Samuel had 159 yards, but they could have ran the ball more with him too. We know he can do both. So I don't know why. Also to the defense, I don't know who the DC over at the 49ers. I don't know who he is now, but I think I just, he's not George Salah. So, that you could tell that the intensity just wasn't there and they weren't able to stop the Titans. So.
Moving on, the NFL had scheduled 2 Christmas Day games, and both of them were played. Let's start out with the Green Bay Packers barely getting by the Cleveland Browns by the score of 24-22. Baker Mayfield was 21 of 36, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Nick Chubb had 17 carries, 126 yards in the score for the Browns. Devontae Adams was the man of the hour for the Packers, 10 catches, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you would thought that maybe the 4 interceptions by the Packers defense, you would think they probably would have, blown out. But yeah, Cleveland still had their chances to kind of get back into the game. They weren't able to do that, and Roosevelt Douglas had 2 of those interceptions, and unfortunately, Baker Mayfield just couldn't get out of his own way. And unfortunately for for them, it looks like they're you can say bye to their playoff hopes. And with the Packers, they've won the NFC North for I think the 3rd year in a row, and could very well be on their way to a number 1 seed. Again, still a lot of football left to be played, but the Packers are probably going to have a week off, so a big win for them.
I had my thoughts on Baker Mayfield as I was watching that game on Saturday. Remind me to share those with you coming up in the next half hour as we continue to go around the NFL. The Packers improved their record to 12-3, while the Browns dropped to 7-8. Saturday night saw the Indianapolis Colts win over the Arizona Cardinals by the score of 22-16. The Colts are now 9-6 on the season. The Cardinals dropped to 10-5, even though they had clinched the playoff spot. We'll give you the reason why later. But the Colts are now winners 8 out of their last 10 games. As far as the game was concerned, Kyler Murray was 27-43 for 245 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor continues to rack up those rushing yards for the Colts, 27 carries, 108 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. for the Colts had 8 catches for 82 yards. Lakeena, it was the running game once again for the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz didn't have to do too much. On the flip side, Lakeena, it seems like to me the Arizona's defense, they cannot bail out the struggling offense, and I think that's what's going to happen come playoff time, and the Cardinals cannot figure it out between now and the end of the regular season.
Well, the Colts are now 9-0 when Taylor goes for over 100 yards, and look, I've been and this is sort of despite them being shorthanded. Leonard was out due to COVID, and some other guys were out too. So the fact that the Colts defense were able to kind of slow down, but then again, most of that stuff was Kyler Murray just not being able to hit their guys. And as for the defense, I know that Bubba Baker had I don't know, he had like a couple of sacks. But again, I mean, that's not they don't have that killer instinct yet. Now they're we'll talk about how they clinch the playoff spot in a second. But the Colts still have an outside shot of trying perhaps maybe win the AFC South, so they still got a lot of work to do. And also the Cardinals. I mean, you're once you get into the dance, you have a chance. So I know some people don't believe in the Cardinals, but look, I like I said before, we saw what happened with Tampa last year. No one expected Tampa to go on a run, but that's what they ended up doing. So I'm not giving up on Arizona just yet. I think once, hopefully they'll be able to get, Connor wasn't there either because of a heel injury. That's another issue for me, but that's neither here nor there at this point. I'll probably talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, I think not having him there, I think was a huge, they definitely missed him. Also to their defense. Like I said, they had a couple of guys off on defense too. I think a couple of other guys were banged up. They actually missed 2 field goals. Prater did, okay, I think because they have a new long set because he was out because he was
and an extra point as well.
Yeah, so if he had hit those, I mean, who knows? I mean, the game would have been totally different. So there were a lot of factors, within in that loss for Arizona. So it's not just you can say, oh well, they had their chances.
You're listening to Second City Sports on, I guess, a Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. I'm Sid along with Lakeena. Lakeena, let's continue our recap of Week 16 for the National Football League. We'll start off with the important games first from yesterday. It was the Cincinnati Bengals improving their record to 9-6 with a 41-21 win over the injury-riddled Baltimore Ravens. They dropped their record now to 8-7. Joe Burrow had a humongous day with 37 out of 46 for 525 yards and 4 touchdown passes. Joe Mixon, 18 carries, 65 yards, and the rushing touchdown. T. Higgins had his best game of his career and his best game of the season. 12 catches, 194 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I did check some of this game out. Lakeena, Cincinnati had their foot on the pedal from the word go.
Yeah, Joe Mixon has scored 15 touchdowns, 13 rushing, and 2 receiving touchdowns this season. He's the first Bengal to do that since he got go all the way back to 1985 with Carl Pickens. Pickens actually had the franchise record for 17. So we'll see if Mixon can break that record, but still got a couple of games to do. But yeah, I mean, look, 525. Look, Joe Burrow. Look, there's no shade to him. I've been a fan of his. I saw him in high school in Ohio, but can you name somebody on that defense for Baltimore? Can you name somebody?
No.
Yeah. So you probably could have thrown for 525 yards. Our buddy Christine Manica probably could have thrown for 525 yards against that Ravens defense. So I don't want to take away from what he did, but let's see who the defense you get a lot because they've been, like you said, so they've been injury riddled all year. So on both sides. So they were in free fall and all understandably so. But look. We'll see if Cincinnati. Look, they've got players. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, of course. Burrow and Mixon. They've got the makers kind of keep. At the very least, compete in that AFC North for at least the next few years. But again, can they utilize it? Also, to their defense. There's still a little bit of a concern to me. Look, on the flip side though, I mean, Josh Johnson, who literally like came up like a couple of days
Mhm.
before the game, he did pretty well. I mean, look, 304 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he did what he could, but again, the injuries and everything else. I mean, Baltimore, they're 8-7. They're still like hanging on by a thread in that last spot for the playoffs, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll be able to hang on to it.
Let's sneak in one more game before we had to break for the bottom of the hour. It was the Los Angeles Rams getting a road victory over the Minnesota Vikings 30-23. Kirk Cousins 27-38 for 315 yards and a touchdown along with an interception. Sonny Michel ran the ball hard for the Los Angeles Rams, 27 carries, 131 yards and a score. Justin Jefferson, 8 catches, 116 yards.
Yeah, very good showing by that's despite, Matt Stafford throwing for 3 interceptions. That I'm sure a
Mhm.
lot of Rams fans are probably kind of worried about that, that stat, but they couldn't really do too much with it, Minnesota. I mean, so that didn't really hurt them too much. But in case you guys are wondering, that's how Arizona ended up getting the playoff berth because the Rams beat the Vikings. The
Mhm.
Cardinals beat the Vikings and probably one of the best games of the season earlier this year. They
Mhm.
got the tiebreaker, so that's why they ended up with the playoff spot to the Cardinals. I mean, so yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, Stafford didn't have his best game, but unlike a couple weeks ago against the Titans, a few weeks back, they actually ended up winning the game. So, and they, their defense, did what they were supposed to do. They sacked Cousins 3 times. They threw an interception. That's actually despite Anthony Barr having 2 of those 3 interceptions. So they could really, like I said, they really couldn't do anything too much with those 3 interceptions. So you know, yeah, they're 7-8 right now. The Vikings are, and look, there's going to be a lot of like weird jumble thing going on. But at least right now, the Rams they still got a lot to play for. They can still win the division. So,
I watched the majority of that game yesterday via this computer screen.
mhm.
Aaron Donald, for those of you that don't watch a lot of Los Angeles Rams football, you just catch them when they're on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. Watch out for Aaron Donald. He's been a man child for day run. I believe this is his 5th or 6th year in the league. And I
Yes.
know he was up for MVP a couple of years ago. We saw what he did against the Bears the last couple of times that they
Hmm.
played the Bears, and it was ugly. But this young man, I'm not going to say he's the best nose tackle of all time. It could end up that way by the time his career is over. But I was watching the game with Adam Amin, Bulls TV voice, who did the game yesterday for Fox, and Mark Sherrod, who's
Hmm.
his broadcast partner. Mark Sherrod was praising him, and rightfully so. I don't know if you checked out the first few minutes of that game, Lakeena, but Aaron Donald is a man child. And I was saying to myself, why doesn't Minnesota double team him? But it was one play where Mattison was stopped in the backfield. And Aaron Donald,
Hmm.
whoever was, I believe it was 74 for the Vikings, he just shoved him out the way like he was nobody. I was like, this man is a man child. And then I
Well.
know on the first play, the first offensive play for the Vikings in the first quarter, it wasn't a nasty chop block, but it was a legalized cut block. And I said that's
Mhm.
probably the only way you can stop Aaron Donald. The unwritten rule: don't
Yes.
take a defender out by
Right.
his knees. That's a
Right.
definitely no. But I said if the Vikings are not going to double team him, it's going to be impossible for them to stop Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's just a man child. He can just take one man, shove him out of his way with his pinky finger, and get to the quarterback. And that's and that's the impression I got watching the first quarter of that game yesterday. Just watching him specifically, that he just didn't stay with his normal defensive tackle position. They moved him around to right defensive end, left defensive
Mhm.
end. The Vikings just had no answer for
Yeah, it was just, massive. Look, we all saw his workouts during the offseason. The man is a
him.
massive dude. So
Yes.
yeah, and look, I mean, he's one of those guys where you hate him, but you want him on your team. So I think
Yeah.
that's always a good thing in that sense. And look, as for the Rams, as a whole, I mean, we'll see. I mean, they have an outside shot of getting the 1 seed in NFC. A lot has to happen for them to get that, but they could do it. I mean, the fact that they were able to win, their defense sort of led the way. In spite of Stafford and also too Sonny Michelle, with the 100 going over 100 yards rushing. So, this is sort of one of those days where you're lucky that you have a great all around team around you, so that if the quarterback doesn't play well and Stafford didn't, and he'll be the first to tell you that, look, you got your other guys to pick up the slack. So that's that has definitely helped them last yesterday, I should say. So we got to take a really quick break. Don't worry, folks. We got some other stuff coming up, the rest of the week 16 slate, and also too some fancy implications for both of us. And I'm out of both my leagues, so I'm not worried about that. But also to some other stuff, with the more clinchers and everything else. So we won't get into like the big results, but we got a lot coming up next in week 16 in the NFL. Sid and Lakeena with you. The Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. The NHL season is being paused through December the 26th. Amid a surge in positive COVID-19 cases across the league, COVID-19 absences led to a stream of postponements in recent days. 11 teams suspended operations entering Monday, and all cross-border matchups across the United States and Canada have been postponed. There have been 44 games postponed this season, and more than 15% of the league is in the COVID-19 protocol. The season is scheduled to resume on Monday the 27th, while the Blackhawks are scheduled to resume their season on the 28th at home against the Blue Jackets. NBA tonight, the Bulls are home against Toronto. Chicago's won 2 in a row. They're 19-10, a game and a half out of first place in the West, chasing the Nets. Chicago coming in after a 133-118 win over the Rockets on Monday. The Raptors in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference at 14-15. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
I'm Dr. Andrea Russo, a cardiologist. Maybe you're waiting to talk to your doctor right now. But if you're having an irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, don't wait. This could be a serious condition like atrial fibrillation, which can make you about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you're having these symptoms, don't wait. Talk to a doctor by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color on a, hashtag Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown as we continue to recap the Week 16 action from the National Football League from yesterday. Lakeena, let's pick it up with the remainder of the early games before we break down the late games. It was the Buffalo Bills getting an important victory over the New England Patriots in the battle of the AFC East Division title, 33-21. Josh Allen, 30 of 47 for 314 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Damian Harris for the Patriots had 18 carries, 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. Isaiah McKenzie stepped up for Buffalo, compliments Stephon Diggs with 11 catches, 125 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, as I mentioned to you last week, the Buffalo Bills, their manhood was taken away from them 3 weeks ago on that Monday Night Football game, losing by 4. Yesterday, Lakeena, this victory, I believe, will propel Buffalo to new heights during the playoffs. Of course, they lost in the AFC title game at Kansas City last year after shocking them with some plays early. But Lakeena, as I picked Buffalo on Wednesday, I was rewarded. But Buffalo, at least 3 quarters of that game, they were in control. Now, New England, everybody expected them to do the same thing as they did 3 weeks ago. I told people that wasn't going to happen. Now, they did rush the ball well yesterday, but Mac Jones, you can kind of see why Bill Belichick as we call him on this show. He didn't put the ball in Mac Jones' hands. Part of it was due to the weather conditions a couple weeks ago. But yesterday, Mac Jones did not have his best game. He threw for 3 interceptions. But New England's defense is not that bad. Actually, it was their defense in the running game which kept them in the game. But Buffalo had too much firepower for them. I know Josh Allen led the team in rushing once again. You know, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. But Buffalo kept their foot on the pedal for an all-important win on the road.
Yeah, that was a huge win for Buffalo. They're actually the first team to beat to sweep their season series against New England in consecutive seasons since those 05-06 Colts team. They're also the first team to win by double digits in New England in consecutive seasons since those 95-96 Broncos team. So that's I think this win was definitely this was like the confidence boost that they needed because they kind of struggled the last couple of games after that, and they lost to Tampa and in weird fashion and everything. So I think this was definitely something that definitely helped them in that effort too. Josh Allen's two passing TDs, passing touchdowns, the first in NFL history with 100 passing TDs and also 20 rushing TDs in his first 4 seasons. I know you're not a fan of him, being the leading rusher, but it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, look, the defense, you could tell that they wanted this game. They played. Micah Hyde said after the game, look, we won this game, and we know that. And he had one of the also Ed Oliver had one of the sacks as well. So I think they felt like like you said, they were embarrassed, especially to happen on Monday Night Football. The fact that they were able to come back a few weeks later and perhaps beat the Patriots. Now they control their own destiny in the AFC East. So and they have I don't know, they probably won't get the number 1 seed, but I think this will definitely help the Bills going into the playoffs. So I think this should only help them.
Going to the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champs, they get a big 32-6 win over the struggling Carolina Panthers. Tom Brady, 18-30 for 232 yards and a touchdown. Keyshawn Vaughn, 7 carries for 70 yards, including a 55-yard touchdown run. Antonio Brown returned to action yesterday, 10 catches for 101 yards. Sam Darnold did get to see the field yesterday, but Lakeena, that Carolina team is a mess. Tampa Bay, they really didn't have to do too much. They did what they had to do, pulling out an important victory yesterday, improving their record to 11-4.
Yeah, they were shorthanded too. They've lost guys to injuries, also to to a couple guys to COVID. But Ryan Succop had 4 field goals for them, so that, like you said, they really didn't have to do too much. Keyshawn Vaughn, I think they broke a streak, because they hadn't scored in the first quarter, so in a while, so that he helped break that streak. And like you said, they kind of just getting ready to kind of go through, and they did just enough to win that game, so they really didn't have to do too much. So
the upset of the day took place in Houston, Texas. It was the Houston Texans defeating the Los Angeles Chargers 41-29. Justin Herbert for the Chargers, 27-35, 336 yards in a touchdown, and an interception that was returned for a pick 6. Rex Burkhead, yes, folks, Rex Burkhead, 122 yards, 122 yards.
149.
Yeah, 149 for the game, for 22 carries and 2 touchdowns. If you Bill Belichick, where was this a few years ago? Justin Jackson, Northwestern grad, carried the ball he had 8 catches for 98 yards for the Chargers, and he also had a rushing touchdown. Lakeena, the Chargers had Austin Eckler on the COVID list and receiver Mike Williams on the COVID list. You can give them a sort of an excuse. That was the main reason why that they lost at Houston yesterday, but yeah, it was bad. And the Houston Texans they actually looked good over the last month or so. The Chargers, if they should miss the playoffs, they'll definitely look back at this game yesterday.
Yeah, I thought they were ready. I was talking to a couple of friends, who I play fantasy football with, and yeah, and look, I know Keenan Allen also out too due to COVID. Look, I get it. You want to give them a little bit of a mulligan because they had a lot of key guys out, but still. And I know Houston's been playing better, but still, I mean, don't play down to your competition. Justin Jackson looked really good for the Chargers. He kind of kept them afloat. But also, too, Herbert had, threw 2 interceptions, so that didn't help either. One was a pick 6 to Taviar Thomas. I gotta, get his name right. But yeah, I mean, you're trying to make the playoffs, and you can't afford these kinds of losses late in the season, especially this late in the season. So if they do it and miss the playoffs, they're going to be looking back at this game and like, yeah, that was a bad loss.
And also the Kansas City Chiefs game the week before as well.
Yes.
Shout out to our guy Armando Lara Jr. again. The Chargers laid a big egg in that game. They sure
golden
did.
Egg, Armando.
Yes, yes. If you want to make a comment or have a question for us during our now less than 90 minutes left in our show for today, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, wrapping up the early game action. It was the Philadelphia Eagles over the Bears. Next opponent in the regular season finale at Soldier Field, the New York Football Giants, 34-10. Eagles offensive lineman Lane Johnson grabs his first career touchdown. Jalen Hurts was 17 of 29, 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. Miles Sanders had 7 carries for 45 yards for the Eagles. And Devontae Smith, the rookie wide receiver from Alabama, had 5 catches for 80 yards and a tremendous touchdown catch.
Didn't have to do too much either. They didn't really have to, as long as they didn't make any mistakes, with Hurts sitting, he threw for 2 touchdowns. Didn't have to do too much, and they ended up winning the game against the Lonely Giants. So they still got a shot at going again to the playoffs. So good for the Eagles. I know they've had some injury issues as well, but they're hanging on. And look, they play within their division. So their last 2 games are in their division. They play Washington on Sunday, then they finish up with the Cowboys, hosting the Cowboys. So we'll see where the Cowboys are. We'll get to them in a second. But the Eagles, they're still in it.
I did catch some of that game yesterday via my computer screen. Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma. I know that Jake Fromm started that game for the Giants yesterday, and I know Mike Glennon came in there. But we talked about some of the commentators that had harsh comments for Matt Nagy, especially last year, Troy Aikman in particular.
Yes.
Jonathan Vilma wanted to go off just on the Giants offense yesterday.
Oh yeah, I heard.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I heard he was on the verge of swearing a couple of times too.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard.
Yes.
I heard. Yeah. I heard. So yeah. So
So whoever, like you said on Sean and Maya's show earlier today, like
yes.
whoever the announcing crew is getting the Bears regular season finale against the Giants. Oh, good luck. Good luck.
I think I think we're gonna get a key to leave again. Again, we'll get to him in a second. But just
moving on.
Future. Yeah. The last game was I just lost Jacksonville losing to the Jets 26-21. We don't have to spend too much time on this one. Zach Wilson, nice showing, 102 yards, threw 100 yards and a touchdown, and also rushed for 91 yards and a touchdown. So a nice showing by him. That's it. Let's go to the late games.
Shout out to Spiro Ditas, our good friend of the show. He called that game for CBS. And one more score to pass along. We definitely won't spend too much time on this. It was the Atlanta Falcons 20, the Lions 16. The Lions are now 2-12 on the 2-12-1 on the year. The Falcons are 7-8. Technically, they're still in the playoff race, but I think realistically, you can kiss that playoff hopes goodbye.
But also, too, a nice little stat here. Shout out to Jen Hill, who does a great job doing sideline reporting for the New Orleans Pelicans. She's terrific. And also, too, the game-winning touchdown, game-winning interception, I should say, I want to make sure I get his name right because I've never been able to get his name right, from Chris Johnson. But actually, that's his given name, but he actually goes by an African name, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. But here's another little tidbit for you. The Falcons have the longest active streak of consecutive games with a takeaway with 11. So, the little tidbit there I know there's a defensive, kind of team. But again, a lot has to happen for them to even get into the playoffs. So they still have a mathematically in it, but, a lot has to happen. Also, Kyle Pitts, the rookie tight end from Florida. He's the 4th tight end in NFL history with at least 60 receptions in their rookie season. He joins Keith Jackson, Jeremy Shockey, and Evan Ingram. So that's a pretty impressive list he joins.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports. We're live in living color on a Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we wrap up our recap from yesterday's action in Week 16 in the National Football League. Let's get to the 2 late games. It was the Kansas City Chiefs clinching the AFC West by the virtue of the Los Angeles Chargers lost to the Texans. They defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 36-10. Patrick Mahomes 23 of 30, 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. Najee Harris for Pittsburgh ran the ball 19 times for 93 yards. And Byron Pingle for Kansas City had 6 receptions for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lakeena, I did check out the highlights this morning. I know Kansas City, they still are a very good team, but Pittsburgh just didn't have it. They didn't have it. That's
You
that's
knew,
what I took away from it, to be
you knew,
honest with
yeah,
you.
you knew it was bad when the Chiefs scored their first two possessions. That's not good. And
Hmm.
yes, they scored 10 points. The Steelers did, but it was way out of reach by then, so it didn't really matter anymore. Fumbles and Big Ben got sacked a couple of times. It was just terrible. And like I said before, I don't know what to think of this Chiefs team. I think they took advantage. Okay, yeah, you want to take advantage of teams' mistakes, teams being putrid and this and that. But to me, I'm not. If they end up getting the number one seed in the AFC, I'm not sold. I'm sorry, I'm not. And I follow too many Chiefs fans on Twitter. Apparently, all the Chiefs fans coming out of the
Did
woodwork
they
like,
come after you yesterday?
yeah. Oh no. Look, I like I said, I stopped watching that game after when it got to like 14 of them. Like, okay, this is gonna be bad. So I just switch over to the next game we're gonna talk about in a second. But it just really didn't really matter to me. And yeah, okay, yes, Pat Mahomes looked good. Okay, fine. Their defense is opportunistic. Despite not having Travis Kelsey, who's in COVID
Mhm.
protocols. I'm still not impressed by them. I'm not. And also, too, damn you, Chargers. I'll get to you. I'll get to y'all in a second too. I got a bone to pick with you guys, but yeah, it really did make a difference to me.
As I said on Wednesday's show, one of them, Travis Kelsey or Tyreek Hill, will come off the COVID list for that game. I know the betting line switched when both those guys' names were put on the health and safety protocol list earlier last week, but it really didn't make a difference yesterday. Pittsburgh just didn't have it. You really cannot blame Big Ben for it yesterday.
Mm-mm.
I know Kansas City's good, but they just didn't have it. Huh.
I like I said, it's really hard to just to tell how good this Chiefs team is because they're playing teams who are not at full strength. I mean, yes, it's not their fault, but how you want folks to kind of sort of analyze your team when they're playing other teams that are not very good or they just don't have it and blah blah blah. And it wasn't just like I said, what was the defense? What was the defense doing? Y'all could have made a stop. I mean, come on. Cam Hayward, where are you? Where are you? Micah Fitzpatrick, come on. I mean, they just I know the other Chiefs are good even short though they were short-handed, but come on.
The Chiefs are 11-4, while the Steelers are hanging on by a thread to that seventh and last playoff spot in the AFC with a 7-7-1 record. Staying now in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos are now 7-8 on the season, losing to the Las Vegas Raiders, who improved their record to 8-7. The Raiders did beat the Broncos 17-13. Derek Carr, 20 of 25, 201 yards and a touchdown. Also, he threw an ugly interception. Josh Jacobs was the man for the Vegas Raiders, 27 carries, 129 yards. And you had tight end Foster Moreau, 4 catches, 67 yards for the Raiders. Lakeena, I did watch the majority of this game via this computer screen. It was all about the Raiders' defense in a running game. That's what happened. We didn't see too much scoring. The Raiders took control, especially early coming out of the second half. I know Greg Gumbel called the game with Tiki Barber for CBS yesterday, but it was all about their running game for the Raiders. Denver just could not get anything going offensively. That's why I had the Raiders winning this game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Broncos or the whatever luck they did have, it kind of ran out on them. And they really, like I said with the Raiders, they really didn't do too much. I mean, Jacobs, rushed for 129 yards. Derek Carr, I should say, he threw they threw an early reception, but it really, Denver actually had an early lead going into halftime, but the Raiders were to kind of make adjustments and pick it up. So they did just enough to win that game, and it actually ended up being the best game of the late window because the Bears Seahawks, who cares, and also too the Chiefs, the Chiefs Steelers game was a blowout, so this was probably like the best game. I know folks were begging CBS to switch over because I'm sure most of the nation ended up getting the Steelers Chiefs game, but then once Carr threw, I forgot who he threw. I thought, was it Jones or was it Deshaun Jackson who got that was like the game clinching drive that kind of sealed the win. So they actually ended up having to go back to the Steelers Chiefs game about like 10 minutes later. So it really didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders, they have all the tiebreakers now. So they actually have a shot they actually control their own destiny and try to get that one of those last couple of playoff spots.
In Sunday Night Football action, it was the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East by virtue of a loss, but they did defeat the Washington Football Team 56-14. The Cowboys improved their record to 11-4, while Washington sits at 6-9 in their playoff hopes are all but over. Dak Prescott, hashtag Dak is back, 28 of 39 for 330 yards and 4 touchdown passes. Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries, 37 yards in the early touchdown. Amari Cooper, 7 catches, 85 yards in the score.
Yeah, that was a laugher. I actually turned the game off like before halftime. I'm like, no, I look, there are other stuff on. I can't deal with this. Look, I mean, the Washington, look, I know they have a lot of guys that are still out because of COVID. I know some of their coaches are still out, but even still, I mean, there wasn't really that much of an effort and they just didn't have it. I know probably the big story for them was that a couple of their guys who happen to be former Alabama teammates, Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne, got into a little bit of a scuffle, and NBC talked about that for like 15 minutes because there was nothing. I know some people were very critical of them, but there was nothing else going on. I mean, okay, they can only like talk about Dak and Zeke scoring for so many minutes, so I guess they needed something to kind of meaty. But look, maybe one was making sense to win the playoff game against Alabama. I don't know, but maybe that's probably what happened. But yeah, I mean, for this, I mean, look, again, this is another team where I can't figure out because their division is not very good. So maybe Philly's pretty good. They're kind of on their way, but I know Washington's had too many injuries and such, so you can't really like make any proclamations on them. So look, I mean, I'm not look. I don't think they're going to get into the Super Bowl. I don't. I mean, I'm sorry. I know there are a lot of people that are lobbying for that, but I feel like, you know what? Nah, it's not me.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense is better than what I thought it was going to be. We talked about it before the season started, Lakeena. Their defense was terrible last year, despite Dak's injury and everybody else getting hurt as well. Micah Parsons will probably be your defensive rookie of the year. He's made a big difference. Of course, DeMarcus Lawrence had a pick 6 last night. And so the Cowboys defense is very good. I think it's going to give some teams trouble, whoever they play. But I kind of worry about them if they have to go up to Lambeau. Yeah. Can they compete with the Packers? I believe that they can, but I just worry about them, especially offensively, if these two teams should have to match to meet up in the playoffs in Lambeau.
Also, Trevon Diggs got his 11th interception of the year, tying the single season record. Of course, Everson Walls, who was actually at the game back in 1981, who was at Walls. Mr. Walls was actually at the game. He still goes to the games. I remember they did an interview with him, earlier this season. Once he started, Diggs started getting more interceptions. But yeah, I mean, look, I like I said, I don't know. Like, the offense is consistent, their defense is good, but can they do it against better offenses? So I really don't know. Like I said before, once you're in the dance, once the playoff picture is set, I mean, once you're in the dance, everybody has a chance. So, that's sort of been like my mantra. So again, we'll see how Dallas looks, but right now I really can't make any proclamation that whether or not they're going to make it far in the playoffs. I just don't think. For me, I think it's going to be about matchup for them, but we'll see.
Before we get to our studs and duds from the weekend, we have one game remaining in our NFL Week 16 schedule, and that's tonight on Monday Night Football at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. It's the Miami Dolphins who check in at 7-7, and New Orleans Saints who are also 7-7. Both these teams are fighting for their playoff lives. The line is Miami is now a 3-point favorite. Lakeena, when we gave our picks on last Wednesday, I talked about the Saints having a good defense. They need to run the ball, but Miami has momentum right now. Tua Tagovailoa, he just cannot turn the ball over. The defense is right behind you. Myles Gaskin, he can pick it up a little bit more in the running department, but what I believe the Saints are starting a rookie quarterback tonight, and if that's the case.
Ian Book from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
People, Notre Dame fans, they know him. People said they looked good during training camp, so I don't know. You can take that for as you will, but like I said, this is going to be a very interesting game to see who can take advantage of sort of like, can the Dolphins, who are virtually healthy for the most part, can they take advantage of the fact that the Saints are shorthanded? So that's going to be the thing for me. And look, give Gaskin the ball, keep, booking the offense off and the Kamara and them off the field. And also too much defense. I mean, the defense for the Saints is inconsistent sometimes. One week they look good against Brady and the Bucks, but the other times, they don't look good at all. So which defense are we going to get tonight? Also, sideline reporting too. This came across the wires. Lisa Salters, she will not be on the sideline today because she's out because of COVID protocols. So Laura Rutledge will be on the sidelines tonight, who does a terrific job, covering both college and NFL. Of course, she hosts NFL Live as well, so a little facts there. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be the key for me, getting who can get to like that quick starts, in the Superdome. So, what's your key?
Key is for the Dolphins to get after that rookie quarterback and run the ball with some consistency. And will we see Christian Wilkins in the end zone tonight? I know ESPN is going to hype him up for sure.
Oh yeah, more belly flops. You may see a belly flop from Mr. Wilkins tonight. All right, so Sid, studs and duds for Week 16. Go.
Jonathan Allen from the Indianapolis Colts, Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals, and just because I'll give my third stud to Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams.
All right, so for me, Cincy, they actually made me good for the first time in about a month. But again, Baltimore's had a lot of injuries, so they were once Dobbins got hurt, like in training camp. I think that kind of started the downward spiral for them. Let's see, the Colts that were able to do that for the fact that they were able to do that on the road, being shorthanded, Leonard was out, Nelson was out due to COVID. So the fact that they were able to kind of come in and I know the Colts were favored, but the fact that they were able to do it on the road against the Cardinals is still pretty impressive. And Buffalo, I'll give it to Buffalo because Buffalo showed that they still got their big boy pants on, that they didn't, season moment. Hopefully they can get together just in time for the playoffs.
Good stuff. Of our three duds, I actually talk about this person. Remind me to do it during our last segment of the show. But Baker Mayfield in the Cleveland Browns is my first dud. My second dud will go to the New York Football Giants. Enough said. And my third dud is the Los Angeles Chargers. As we talked about a few moments ago, if they don't make the playoffs, that game, along with the Chiefs game at home a week before, will come back to bite them in the you-know-what.
Yeah,
those three duds.
Yeah, you stole one of my duds. Chargers. I had a bone to pick with them because they actually ruled the first time. I wouldn't want to parlay for the first time, but I had Justin Herbert throw for 300 yards. I took the over, and I would have won about a couple $100. But no, you had to throw 2 interceptions, sneaking, including a pick 6. Really, dude. Also, of course, I know they were shorthanded due to COVID and such. I know Mike Williams is out. Eckler was out, Keenan Allen was out as well, but still, you still couldn't beat the Texans, really. I know the Texans have been playing good lately, but come on. Who else? I'll leave Baltimore alone because I wasn't able to Baltimore, but like I said, they've had their injury issues up the wazoo, so I'll give them a mulligan there. Seattle, you had one job. You had one job, Seattle. You could have held on against the Bears. We would not be talking about a Bears 15 Monday if y'all just did what you're supposed to do and y'all had not missed, some field goals and such. So come on, Seattle. My third dud. That's a tough one. Did I deserve a dud? No. Well, I mean, I really, there's really no other. I can't really think of anybody else who's dud worthy. I mean, it's sort of like I could give it to Carolina, but that's too easy.
Yeah.
I could give it to Minnesota, but again, that's too easy. I guess I'll give it to Minnesota again. Just because. I mean, they had their shots. Cousins had another interception. Threw another interception. Looks like they still have a shot at the playoffs, believe it or not. But that's so. Those are your studs. I want to give a bonus stud to Aqib Talib. I know he's an acquired taste for some folks, but I actually find him very refreshing. Him and Aaron Goldsmith. I think the shots had to couldn't do it because of the COVID protocol. That's why Aaron Goldsmith had to come in. Who's great, by the way. He does college football, college who's for Fox. He's an FS1. He's terrific. But yeah, I'll give Aqib. We might see him again. Aqib Talib. In the Sunday against the Giants.
If that's the case, we should do a GoFundMe account for him because that game's gonna get ugly.
Oh yeah, totally.
We don't want him swearing on the air.
No.
We don't start a GoFundMe account for him if he swears on the air.
He gets the Fox Press finds him.
Yeah.
Oh God, Vilma. I saw Vilma. Yeah, I saw some of the comments he made. I was like, yeah. You know, lucky you're not calling a Bears game, Jonathan. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Well, she'll probably get that game so instead of a keep now with the New York Giants and the Bears.
Oh God, just to see if he'll swear. Just see if he'll swear.
Right.
And those are your studs and duds for Week 16 of the NFL. Sid, what's coming up?
Coming up in hour number 2, we'll talk about the Bulls. They still continue to roll against the Indiana Pacers. We'll review NBA Christmas Day action. Did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch? And we'll give you our games to watch for tonight and tomorrow. And plus college football. Some of those bowl games are starting to get axed, and we'll give you the reason why. And we'll have my Baker Mayfield dilemma on which possible destination could be in his future. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You listen to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color on a hashtag Bears Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. The NHL season is being paused through December the 26th. Amid a surge in positive COVID-19 cases across the league, COVID-19 absences led to a stream of postponements in recent days. 11 teams suspended operations entering Monday, and all cross-border matchups across the United States and Canada have been postponed. There have been 44 games postponed this season, and more than 15% of the league is in the COVID-19 protocol. The season's scheduled to resume on Monday the 27th, while the Blackhawks are scheduled to resume their season on the 28th at home against the Blue Jackets. NBA tonight, the Bulls are home against Toronto. Chicago's won 2 in a row. They're 19-10, a game and a half out of first place in the West, chasing the Nets. Chicago coming in after a 133-118 win over the Rockets on Monday. The Raptors in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference at 14-15. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
I'm Dr. Andrea Russo, a cardiologist. Maybe you're waiting to talk to your doctor right now. But if you're having an irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, don't wait. This could be a serious condition like atrial fibrillation, which can make you about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you're having these symptoms, don't wait. Talk to a doctor by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports hashtag Bears Victory Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
If you have a question or comment for us during our remaining last hour of the show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will put them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the boot.
Bye-bye.
And speaking of giving the opponents the boot, as we talk Bulls basketball along with the rest of the NBA, kicking off hour number 2, the Chicago Bulls continue to roll as they improve their record to 20-10 on the season after defeating the Indiana Pacers by the score of 113-105. DeMar DeRozan had 24 points, including 8 points in the fourth quarter in 36 minutes of action. Zach LaVine, returning from the COVID list in 33 minutes of action, had 32 points, including 5 of 9 from three-point range. Nikola Vucevic had 16 points, including 7 of 10 shooting, 2 of 3 from three-point range. He had a key block midway through that third quarter on Domantas Sabonis. So Vucevic looks like he's starting to step up a little bit on the defensive end. Javonte Green, my guy, in 28 minutes of action, he had 13 points, including 4 of 4 shooting, 1 humongous tip-in dunk, and he had made his only attempt from 3-point range. In terms of the bench, Kobe White, even though he was starting in the place of Lonzo Ball, who's in protocol, Kobe White struggled, only scoring 8 points, shooting over 4 from 3-point range in 33 minutes of action. Ayo Dosunmu returned from the COVID list in 23 minutes of action. He had 6 points, including 3 or 4 shooting. Lakeena,
Yes.
I know that we talked about this a little bit on Sean and Maya's show earlier today. I didn't like the turnovers that the Bulls had last night. They had Spurs where they did that, but overall, it was the hot shooting from your 2 stars. Like I said, Vucevic stepped up as well, but the Bulls pretty much did what they had to do against an undermanned Pacers team. The Pacers are now 14-20 on the year. They'll have the rematch in Indiana coming up this Friday for New Year's Eve. But the Bulls did what they had to do last night. It seems like when one man goes down, the next man steps up. This team just does not miss a beat.
Yeah, I would have thought that maybe Zach would be a little bit, slow, to kind of get back into the rhythm, conditioning wise. But look, he had 32 points, he led the way. And I feel like, this Bulls team, I think this sort of like a next man up mentality. Like, okay, one guy's sick, one guy's a little bit banged up. He has to, be out for like maybe a game or two. This guy steps up. I mean, I think that's sort of the mantra of it. Also, too, Billy Donovan, the coach, is now also in COVID protocol. So Chris Fleming, who was the longtime assistant for Kenny Atkinson when he was, coaching in Brooklyn, came to the Bulls this year. His background, like I said, is interesting because he played in Germany, won a couple of titles there, got hurt, ended up coaching. He met his wife. He started a family, had a couple of kids. Now he's back here in the States getting coaching opportunities and such. So, he got his first win, and he kind of reminds you kind of like a little bit of Tibbs, sort of, But yeah, I mean, as far as on the court, I mean, Vucevic had a double, so I guess we're not going to trade him anymore, Bulls fans, Bulls Twitter especially, because how they are sometimes. But yeah, I mean, look, this team looks really good, 20-10, doing what you're supposed to against teams that are not so good. We'll see how they do tonight against Atlanta. They're on the road, so it's going to be tough because I know they are having their own COVID issues, with no Trae Young, no Delano Gallinari, among others. Also, John Collins, he got into COVID protocols yesterday. So still a lot to dissect here with Atlanta. So they shouldn't have no trouble. But again, they're traveling on the road, coming the second of a back-to-back. So it might be a little bit, especially some of these guys, like Green and like Zach, who are still in, who are just coming out of, COVID protocols. So it might take a few games, maybe a game or two, but, But again, this Bulls team look really good. They're right up there in the East, but I like what I'm seeing so far from this Bulls team. I know there was something that concerned you later in that game, so tell people about what was your concerning.
Yeah, I just mentioned about the turnovers, especially when they get up big. It's easy for you to relax on your morals and think that everything's going to take care of itself. But just take care of the basketball, which I think they'll get better at. I know that we mentioned that the Bulls have experienced the players coming in and off the roster because of COVID protocols, but I think they'll get better, especially once your main guys get back. But I do want to point something out. Kobe White, I don't want to blame everything on him because I don't want to sound like some of your buddies you follow on Bulls Twitter that like to complain about every little thing. But Kobe White is still going to take him a little bit more time to get his conditioning back, get his game back. He did look good the other night, not last night, but the previous game. And he's going to be very important, especially tonight against Atlanta. As you mentioned, most of their superstars are in health and safety protocols that they're not going to play. And so I want to see Kobe White come out and attack tonight and see if he can get his offense going. We all know that DeMar DeRozan is going to be there. We all know where we're going to get from Zach LaVine. Vucevic should start to step up now. I want to see Kobe White get into the fold and perhaps create a 4-man tandem.
And that's what you want to, especially with Ball being out because of protocol. So I hope this is a perfect opportunity for Kobe to kind of show himself and also to kind of get himself back into the rhythm. So it'll be pretty pretty cool. Hopefully he'll be able to do that. And yeah, it's gonna be should be a fun game. Even though yes, some of the the superstars for the Hawks are will be able to play. But there's no reason why the Bulls shouldn't win this game. And I know the turnovers. I see what you're saying, Sid. But again, when you're up that late, you kind of get a little careless. And too, remember, Balls uses the ball handler for in that instance. Since he's out right now. But yeah, I want to see how how this team does. Coming off a back to back, because like I said, a lot of these guys are kind of getting back into a rhythm. So hopefully, I don't want to hear Bulls Twitter whine and complain about, oh, this guy should be out. Should be out there. Let's trade this guy. Okay, guys, stop. The conditioning. Look what's happening with Vooch. I mean, he's looking better and better each game. So let's slow it down here, folks. Come on, give him a little bit of slack.
You can watch tonight's Bulls game locally on NBC Sports Chicago at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The rest of the nation can watch this game on NBA TV at the same time. So that's where you can check out tonight's Bulls game. Lakeena, let's go to the rest of the association. Did you watch any other Christmas Day games? Only watched actually two, to be honest with you. But the second game was actually pretty entertaining. The Bucks defeated the Celtics 117-113. Giannis Antetokounmpo had a key block in that game. He had a big game. The Warriors and Suns, they were very entertaining. The Warriors defeated the Suns 116-107. Steph Curry had a couple of big moments in that game as well. Phoenix, they tried to keep up, but it wasn't enough. But it was the Los Angeles Lakers now currently loses 5 games in a row. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets 122-115. James Harden had a big game. He came off of health and safety protocols. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving still remain on that list. LeBron James had 30-plus points again for the Lakers. As we said on Wednesday, Lakeena, as we focus in on this Nets-Lakers game, as I said before, the Lakers dealing with their injury issues. LeBron James, he has to carry the load only because of Anthony Davis's injury. But if he keeps playing like this and he gets no help, it's going to haunt this Lakers team as we get towards April when the playoffs start. Now, on the flip side for the Nets, as we told you on Wednesday, Kevin Durant and or James Harden was going to come off that list because this is money that ABC was going to miss if James Harden and Kevin Durant didn't play for Brooklyn. So Harden's off the list. You saw what he did. Patty Mills had a huge game with 34 points. So Brooklyn, you would have thought they would have just evolve everything around Harden and go through the motions, but they came out ready to play. They attacked the Lakers, especially in the paint right away. The Lakers eventually did get back in the game, but Brooklyn had some other great performances, especially from the big guy Nick Claxton and Bruce Brown, who had his moments during last year's playoff run for the Nets.
Yeah, Patty Mills kicked in, like you said, with 36 and 34, I should say, and they are the first. He and Hart are the first pair of teammates to score 30-plus points in the Christmas Day game. You got to go all the way back to '93 with the Phoenix Suns with Barkley and Kevin Johnson. They scored 30 points apiece. So little history there. Now, as far as as far as the Lakers are concerned, I mean, you want to give them more time, but when's it going to end? They're 16-18 right now as this recording. AD's hurt again. Westbrook, has been shooting air balls.
He missed 3 easy layups.
Yeah, that which could have easily, changed the game had he had made them. And also he had a 3-pointer that he could have made that would have tied the game, but the Nets ended up pulling away. And it's just one of those things where where's the fits? Who's gonna head's gonna roll? Like who's gonna get the blame? I mean, do you blame it on injuries? Do you blame it on COVID? Do you blame it on Rob Pelinka, who's the GM who helped put this team together? Some people want to blame LeBron because he's also helped put this team together. So
this is what happens when you give your keys to the franchise to a player like LeBron James. This is what ends up happening.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, it's one of those things where it's all about fit at this point. And some people say maybe they should make a couple of trades with what? They don't have no first round picks to offer anybody. So I don't know. You're kind of stuck unless you try to get somebody from off the list. When the rosters expand. But I don't know what more can they do.
I don't know what more can the Lakers do either. They're basically handcuffed. I know their head coach Frank Vogel, his job security has been in question. He's in healthy and safety protocols. I know David Fizdale is filling in for him. Some people may say that this may be the audition for Fizdale to remain the head guy for the rest of the year. who knows? But I don't think it's a great idea right now. No offense to Mr. Fizdale, but it's other factors that's going on with this Lakers team right now. I know Malik Monk came back, had some nice moments in Saturday's game. He was actually playing well before he went on the COVID list. He's off now, but the Lakers, they just have to stay healthy, and they got to be more aggressive, especially on the defensive end. You saw it in that fourth quarter, but to start the game and to start second halves, they just don't have it consistently. They just don't.
Well, and also, like you said, the guys are old. That's what happens when you try to get an older team. And there's really not only is not enough basketballs to go around, but also too, you got guys that are having to play back to backs, and it's catching in the wear and tear. It is just awful and terrible. I want to go to this Utah Dallas game, because that's actually one of the games I actually kind of watched very fully. I mean, it was kind of back and forth. They kept it close for a little bit. I mean, Dallas did, and they tried to catch up, but yet Utah did just to kind of pull away. Donovan Mitchell had 33 points. Also,
he's going to be out the next 2 games with
I know.
due
I
to
saw
a back
that.
injury.
Yeah, I saw that. It came across the wires earlier this morning. Also, too, Bogdanovich, had 25. So, yeah, Utah actually has the highest point differential still in the NBA. But like you said, Sid, Mitchell's going to be out a couple of games, but we'll see. These next couple of games. When we preview this in a second. But Utah, I like what Utah is doing right now. So. You gotta like what they're doing, and then look, I want to see them do this in the playoffs. Also, too, now with Mitchell being out for a couple of games because of his back, you hope that's not going to be an issue too in the rest of the season.
Yeah, let's see if Royce O'Neal and Jordan Clarkson can step up scoring wise with the absence of Mr. Donovan Mitchell. You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Bears Football Monday, I guess. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we talk Bulls in the NBA. And the first game of that Christmas schedule from last Saturday, without Trae Young, the Atlanta Hawks lose to the New York Knicks 101-87. I did turn to that game for 1 second, and that score was out of control. I said, yeah, that's what happens when you don't have your best player for the Atlanta Hawks on the court.
Yeah, and also, like I said, John Collins, did what he could, with 20 points before, but now he's now in health and safety protocols, like I said. So, that's what happens when you're shorthanded. Atlanta's unfortunately learning that the hard way. And we'll see if the Knicks can kind of get it together. They're still under 500, but this is actually a much-needed win for them. I didn't watch too much of this game because when I saw the score, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time watching this. So,
Same
no,
here.
no, it's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. But it's sort of the games were kind of blah for the most part. In the Christmas Day games, of course, some teams were shorthanded because of the COVID issues and such. So it's kind of hard to kind of give a grade on these games. Especially in especially in like half of these. But they kind of went off without a hitch. So it is what it is. Now going into yesterday's games, I should say. Miami beat Orlando 93-83. Jimmy Butler in his second game back from his long injury stand had 17 points. Miami did just enough to win. And also they're starting to get their guys back. Bam's still out, but Jimmy's back, so that helps a lot. And they've won a couple in a row too. So, luckily, the Heat are starting to kind of putting things together here.
Yeah, as we said before, as soon as their key guys start getting back because of injuries or, heaven forbid, COVID, this team will be a tough outcome playoff time. So the Miami Heat, they might not have the big superstars outside of Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, but they play together as a team, and they'll get after it, especially defensively, and give that credit to head coach Eric Spoelstra. So Miami's, assuming they get everybody back healthy, there'll be a tough outcome playoff time.
Absolutely. Going to the rest of these games, of course, Cleveland being in Toronto. This is Toronto's first game back. They still got guys on the COVID list. So, of course, Cleveland would beat them pretty handily, 144-99. Philadelphia beats Washington. Joel Embiid had 36 points, leading the way for them. Also, too, Memphis. Memphis looks like they're starting to kind of get things going with John Morant back. 127-102 over Sacramento. I've actually watched a little bit of this game via this laptop here.
Me too.
Right. It actually wasn't him that led the way. It was actually Bane who led the way, with 28 points for the Grizz. Also, too, Jared Jackson Jr., I should say, had 21. Of course, John Morant had 18. Also, Desmond Bain, led the way for them. So Memphis they're 1-1 since Ms. Jaw is back. But yeah, we'll see how they do once again to getting back into the rotation here.
I want to go back to that Philadelphia-Washington game. I did watch the majority of that third quarter yesterday. Joel Embiid, I know he's a lovable guy, especially on the social media circuit, but he could be an annoying guy at times. I don't know if you caught this, Lakeena. I was watching it live. Montrezl Harrell, who's he's a hard-nosed player, but his attitude in that Clippers locker room a couple years ago was not to be held to higher standards. Let's just put it that way. At least if you listen to people around the NBA circles covering the NBA. But Joel Embiid, he ran over Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell thought the foul should have been called. Didn't do that, but he got back up as Joel Embiid was starting to go in for a layup. Montrezl Harrell held Embiid. Embiid got offended, charged him. Everybody thought that Embiid had his hands around Montrezl Harrell's throat. That didn't happen. Montrezl Harrell had his hands on Joel Embiid's jersey. Both of them got double technicals. And then on the next play, Montrezl Harrell had a foul call. Slightly shoved Embiid, get away from me. And Montrezl Harrell got kicked out of the game.
Oh yeah, I think I saw replays of that, and yeah, that just didn't look. Yeah, that's not.
It just
good.
wasn't smart for Montrezl. You already got one technical foul. If you try to do something to Embiid, the rest will already watch it. That was just not a smart move. Maybe that other referees would have let it go. Just say one more time and then you out of here. But I just thought that the refs wanted to eliminate that element right away.
Well, you also too, things got a little bit chippy there too. So there's no love lost between these two teams. These are old rivals from the East. So I think, of course, they were gonna look out to make sure there weren't anything weird happening. Unfortunately, Harold got the worst of it, so he got the boot. So what can you say? Okay, San Antonio, beat Detroit pretty handily, 144-109. And also too, Denver held off the Clippers, who are going to be without Paul George for the next, I think, month due to a UCL sprain. I think he just had surgery, so he's going to be out for about a month. So, the Clippers, losing some of their guys, so they're going to have to kind of, buckle down and try to hold down the fort with, of course, Kawhi's out for another few months now. PG's out for about a month, so a lot. Yeah, so it's a lot to do still in Clippers.
Yeah, I think Reggie Jackson's still in protocols, and it's all to the guys like Boston and Serge Ibaka, who's really having a resurgence here over the last couple of weeks due to a players on the Clippers. Is it going to be up to those types of guys? And Terrence Mann, who had his moments in the playoffs last year, second-year guy, it's going to be up to those guys to carry the fort for the Clippers. I know they're hovering around 500, but if they can still hang around 500 until Paul George gets back, that's going to be a heck of an accomplishment for this Clippers team. Head coach Tyronn Lue, he's had work to do so far this season. He's going to have more work to do now.
Definitely, and we'll see if he can do that. They got a pretty tough schedule these next few weeks, so gonna get very interesting with the Clippers. Absolutely. Now we'll get to that. One of those games coming up as we do the schedule for the next few days here. Houston and Charlotte, of course. That's at 6:00. Of course, the Bulls and Atlanta. That's going to be the first of the NBA TV doubleheader at 6:30. So take a little break from Monday Night Football and watch that game if you have it. Boston, Minnesota. I know Karl Anthony Towns is now in health and safety protocols too. That poor guy, that he can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And of course, you all know he's lost numerous relatives due to COVID, including his mother. So, best wishes to him. Hopefully he's feeling better. Utah and San Antonio, of course.
Jason Tatum is in protocols now as well for Boston.
Yeah, so it's definitely evenly matched team. So who's supporting Cast will step up in this game. Should be an interesting one tonight at 7 in the Twin Cities. Utah and San Antonio, of course. Donovan Mitchell, of course, is out a couple of games with a back injury. So interested to see how San Antonio's been playing pretty well lately. I don't think they're going to make a playoff run for that play-in game, but they can make things interesting. So we'll see what they do against the Jazz without Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if the Spurs won this game tonight. As you mentioned, they've been playing a whole lot better. I did watch some of the game last Thursday against the Lakers. They caught the
Yes.
Lakers in the right time, and that's what happens when you have great coaching and great Popovich.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Memphis and Phoenix. I'm a little surprised that this game is on television because I think this will be a very interesting game, especially with John Morant back.
Hmm.
And Morant versus Devin Booker. That should be a fun one. So a little
Yeah,
surprised that this game
yeah,
this is
and
this
Monty
game is on
Williams.
television. Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah, I just saw that too. Go ahead,
yeah,
Sid.
Monty Williams, the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, has entered health and safety protocol, so he will not coach tonight's game against Memphis. I'm with you, Lakeena. This game should have been the NBA TV back end of their doubleheader, but we'll get to the other game that's part of their package in just a moment. Wrapping up here is Dallas at Portland at 9 o'clock, and then of course at 9:30 on NBA TV to wrap up the night. We have the James Harden led Brooklyn Nets against the Paul George less Los Angeles Clippers at 9:30.
Yeah, that's gonna be. Yeah, I wish they could have flexed that game out, but I
Yeah.
guess look, they didn't know at the time that Durant would be, in health and protocols and PG would be out. So, you don't anticipate that kind of thing with your in the network now. Going into tomorrow's games, Milwaukee and Orlando. Then you got the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. You got Washington and Miami. Philadelphia and Toronto. We'll see how Toronto looks. And like I said, they're still shorthanded.
Mhm.
And we'll see how the Lakers look against Houston. They're playing Houston a lot lately. So we'll see. They got them, the first time, then they got them the last time they play. We'll see how they do tomorrow night against them in Houston.
Yeah, the Lakers got the best of the Rockets early in the season with a quick 2-game set at now Crypto.com Arena. And so
I'm not
we
calling
all
it by
know
that
the
corporate
Lakers.
name.
Yeah, we all know that the Lakers has had that struggles against lower lesser teams this year. OKC to be one of them. So key game
Mhm.
for the Lakers tomorrow night. Wrapping up the Tuesday night schedule, we have the Knicks at the Timberwolves at 7 o'clock Chicago time. Cleveland at New Orleans at the same time. The second game of that NBA TV doubleheader tomorrow night, I should say Tuesday at 9 p.m. will feature Denver at the Warriors. That should be fun.
That should be a lot of fun too. Jokic versus Steph. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see, which style wins. Will it be the more kind of the gritty style that is Denver, or will it be the high flying
Mhm.
scoring that is the Warriors? So that should be a fun one in the Bay Area.
And wrapping up tomorrow night's schedule will be the OKC Thunder taking on the Sacramento Kings at 9 p.m. Lakeena, giving a quick programming note. We'll be back right here on Sports Zone Chicago live in 11 color for Wednesday. We're not going anywhere, but it'll be our last show for the calendar year of 2021. We're going to have some fun, and we'll have a surprise guest or two along the way. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in a couple of days. This coming Wednesday, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So set your reminders to check us out immediately following
Mhm.
Sean and Maya in the morning. So that's a quick programming note for you guys, and that's the schedule for tonight and tomorrow, for Monday and Tuesday, from around the National Basketball Association.
All right, so we got a couple more minutes before we go to break. What kind of caught your eye in the NBA this week, outside of the health and safety stuff?
It's just that the Lakers, they did show some fight on Saturday night against the Brooklyn Nets, but as we mentioned, they still have a lot of work to do, and they need to turn it around quickly, or else it's really going to get ugly. But the Memphis Grizzlies, as I mentioned, I did check out a little bit of that game against Sacramento yesterday. Can Memphis keep it up now with the John Morant back? And Sacramento looks like that magic is starting to run out. So if you're a Bulls fan in particular, can you look at some of the buyout candidates around trade deadline time in February? Tristan Thompson sounds nice. Maybe Marvin Bagley Jr. We'll see what happens. But can Memphis keep up this pace with John Morant back? It's going to be very interesting because they were doing well without him for those few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing people are going to be noticing, because when they start to struggle, they actually had a nice little rhythm without him. So it's going to be very interesting now that he is back. What's going to, is it going to kind of interrupt the rhythm? So we just don't know what's going to happen with that. But again, we're still pretty early in the season now. Looking at the standings real quick, I mean, of course, the Warriors and the the Suns have the top 2 records in the
Mhm.
West. You got of course the Nets and the Bulls and the Bucks and the Heat and the Cavs of all teams. They're all within 3 games of each other in the East. For that top spot. I don't think anybody had the Cavs being that 5th team, but
No.
it's sort of crazy. Again, we'll see. I mean, look, we saw with the Wizards, they kind of fell off to it a little bit.
Now
Boston's
they're
had
missing
this.
Bradley Beal as well,
Yes,
along with
yeah.
Contavious Caldwell-Pope. And
Yes, to
it's-
COVID protocols. Yeah, so that's off to Boston. I know people don't that maybe Boston would be up there, but of course, like you said, Tatum's now in safety protocols. So a lot of weird things could happen in the East. So hopefully the Bulls can kind of avoid that, stay like near the top 3 or 4 seeds, and avoid that play-in.
Yeah, and going back real quick to the Cleveland Cavaliers, we talked about this early in the season, Lakeena, especially when Cleveland beat the Bulls. Of course, the Bulls were going through their issues at the time. Cleveland's a nice young team. Too bad Colin Sexton is out for the year,
Yeah.
but you still have Darius Garland, Alan Crabb in the middle. You still have a couple of other young guys. That team is pretty interesting to watch. I know what they did to Toronto yesterday, but they can stay healthy. They could definitely be in that play-in tournament come the end of the regular season.
Absolutely should be a fun next few weeks as we're going into January. Now we're kind of getting into like the nitty-gritty of the NBA season. So we got to take a really quick break. A lot to do still here on Second City Sports. Of course, various college football and college hoops programs are now, they're going through their own COVID issues. Speaking of, bowl games are getting canceled, conference games and the college hoop sides are getting pushed back. On both the men's and the women's side. So a lot to do still. And also, too, Sid has his thoughts on one Mr. Baker Mayfield, too. So stay tuned for all that coming up next to the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. The NHL season is being paused through December the 26th. Amid a surge in positive COVID-19 cases across the league, COVID-19 absences led to a stream of postponements in recent days. 11 teams suspended operations entering Monday, and all cross-border matchups across the United States and Canada have been postponed. There have been 44 games postponed this season, and more than 15% of the league is in the COVID-19 protocol. The season's scheduled to resume on Monday the 27th, while the Blackhawks are scheduled to resume their season on the 28th at home against the Blue Jackets. NBA tonight, the Bulls are home against Toronto. Chicago's won 2 in a row. They're 19-10, a game and a half out of first place in the West, chasing the Nets. Chicago coming in after a 133-118 win over the Rockets on Monday. The Raptors in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference at 14-15. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
I'm Dr. Andrea Russo, a cardiologist. Maybe you're waiting to talk to your doctor right now. But if you're having an irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, don't wait. This could be a serious condition like atrial fibrillation, which can make you about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you're having these symptoms, don't wait. Talk to a doctor by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Welcome back to the last segment of hashtag Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color along with Lakeena McGee. I'm Sidney Brown. Good grief. Getting to the show is over. We had so much, always have fun talking sports with you guys. Lakeena, before we get to our main a couple of topics to wrap up today's show, you have a college football, college sports update. Give a programming note. We know that the college football playoff national semifinal will take place this Friday. Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, and Georgia. We'll give you guys a full breakdown of those matchups coming up on our special show on Wednesday.
Yes, we will. And as far as, like you said some of the like we teased during the break, of course, various teams are having, COVID issues and such. There've been like 6 or 7 bowl games that have already been canceled. Georgia's trying to avoid of course, I guess I guess Atlanta's kind of been the hot spot for the latest COVID outbreak there. So now they've been trying to avoid being around, the media. That's why they've closed off to the media. I know Michigan's done the same thing, also Alabama as well. So for folks who are, getting their panties in a bunch because some they've decided not to let the media in. They're trying to keep it, the outbreak from happening. So they're actually trying to do you guys some good as well. So for folks who are freaking out because they're shutting down practices and stuff like that, that's for your own good and for theirs as well. So I'm just saying. So you've had like the Hawaii Bowl because Hawaii's having not just COVID issues, but also other issues too, guys leaving and things like that. I know Miami, the Sun Bowl, they're supposed to be playing Wazoo in a couple of days. They can't do it, so they might have to cancel the Sun Bowl. The Military Bowl was canceled because BC, is having COVID issues. SM, Virginia's had COVID issues, so they had to cancel their bowl game with SMU. Let's see what else. Yeah, I know Rutgers had to be a last minute replacement for I believe for Miami because of the fact that they're having COVID issues. So it was a Gator Bowl. No, it was A&M. A&M was having COVID issues. So Texas. So Rutgers had to replace them. So that's a lot of bowl games that have had to be canceled or pushed back or postponed. So that's actually lost of a lot of money for a lot of, not just for the teams, but also to the sponsors who sponsor these games, also to the network as well. ESPN's been losing some money because they haven't been able to televise these bowl games, some of them.
Yeah, I think going forward, COVID or no COVID, some of these bowls that have been popping up for the last few years, like the Las Vegas Bowl with Jimmy Kimmel. I think we'll know the LA Bowl with Jimmy Kimmel. We'll have to really examine this. We all know this is the monies will go to these schools for these smaller bowls, but do we really need that many bowl games, Lakeena? Especially now we have the college football playoff, and it looks like it's going to expand within the next 3 or 4 years. We assume to 8. Me personally, should be 8, not 12, but we'll get into that debate at another time. But with the college football playoff possibly expanding, do we really need these mini bowl games? Really?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a thing. Also, I also have some contingencies in case this happens. Have some teams on standby. Like, hey, we may call you if one team, has a COVID outbreak. I mean, Rutgers is playing Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl, so wanted to clean that up. Washington's still waiting for if they can get an opponent, or else they're gonna have to cancel the Sun Bowl. Just wanted to clean that little tidbit up. But
and that's a big money maker for CBS.
Tickets, big ticket items. These are the big ticket bowls, on New Year's Eve on Friday. So if they can't play these games, that's money that they're losing, that CBS is losing. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, like I said, you're gonna have to have contingencies maybe from now on, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, and of course, as far as the playoffs are concerned, I know Georgia, like I said before, I mean, I know they're trying to avoid, I know their state's been kind of the hot spot for COVID lately. So hopefully they can avoid any big issues too. I think that's why Rutgers got the nod for the Gator Bowl and not Illinois, because Illinois, they're on their break. Rutgers is a go by quarter. So they weren't on their break yet, so they're able to get their guys in and, hopefully, guys contain and, be able to get through all the protocols and such. So
here's the thing going back to the teams in the college football playoff, which we mentioned we'll give you our special preview on Wednesday for the games taking place on New Year's Eve, which will be coming up this coming Friday. We talked about this before we went live, Lakeena, about some people complaining about the closed practices. It's for their safety and for yours too. But as I said, Lakeena, with all these other bowl games we just talked about getting postponed or canceled altogether, let me say this out loud. ESPN will do any and everything in its power to get those games on Friday, and of course the national championship game in another week halted off and on time. They did it last year in much challenging conditions. I know it's challenging this year, even though we're seeing fans going back in the stands. But I guarantee you this, ESPN, especially with the bowl games that have been postponed or canceled, this is their money maker. They'll do any and everything in their power for those games to go off without a hitch.
Oh yeah,
Those games
absolutely.
will not get moved unless
Yeah.
there's a natural disaster, something along those lines. But things that they can't control, they're going to get those games played without a hitch. If they could do it last year under much more challenging conditions, they can do it this year. ESPN is not going to lose any money with the national semifinal and the college national championship. They're just not.
Also, too, I know they're not gonna like unlike some people, they're not gonna complain if some teams decide to close their practices for for
Hmm.
the sake of their own. So that could be. And also too the challenge circumstances with some stadiums not letting fans in, some stadiums only letting a limited number of fans. So all
Hmm.
this is sort of like trying to gonna manifest. So like I said before, hopefully knock on wood, hopefully nothing goes out without a hitch in Georgia, and also the other teams will be able to play the rest of these bowl games because there's still a lot coming up. Hopefully they'll be able to play the rest of these games with no problem, but we'll see what happens. Also, college hoops. I mean, I see Duke, they've had to postpone a couple of their games because they're having COVID issues. USC and UCLA, they haven't played like in like 2 weeks because they're having COVID issues within their program, both their players and coaches. I see Oregon's had to postpone a couple of their conference games because of COVID, so protocol. So a lot. I know DePaul is just not coming back from protocols. So a lot. Geez, I mean, I don't know what else can be said at this point because there's still a lot of issues. COVID's wreaking havoc on both the men's and women's schedule. I know a couple of the women's games have had to be postponed, due to COVID issues. So it's just, yeah, that not yeah, it's sort of unfortunately, this is kind of a new world we're living in, folks. We just got to get used to it.
And here's the thing: I was watching football on CBS yesterday. They were advertising their triple header coverage for next Saturday, New Year's Day, and there was a couple of teams I was looking forward to watching this year
Hmm.
outside of Illinois and Loyola. Memphis was one of them, and of course, Memphis Tigers, of course, they're
Hmm.
coached by native son Penny Hardaway, former NBA player, and his team is part of that triple header coverage for college basketball for CBS. And I told you, Lakeena, this is around the time I started getting into it. Of course, next month when conference play starts, it really gets interesting. But you keep having these games postponed or canceled outright, it definitely ruins momentum for the rest of the season. Hopefully, this doesn't get real bad that March Madness could be in jeopardy too. I don't want to put the panic out there, but if these schools are not playing enough games, March Madness could. We assume that we're going to return to normal as far as letting fans back in the stands and the cheerleaders and all that. March Madness could we assume, and I think it's going to look different than a year ago when we just happened to get it back. But will the question is, will most of these schools, especially your big power schools on these Power Five conferences, can they get enough games in?
Well, they may have to push the start back, and I think that's probably a strong possibility because if some of these schools are going to be, some of these programs are just now coming back or they're still in COVID protocols. I mean, they're not going to be able to play a lot of games. You're asking these guys to have to play like 5 games in like 6 or 7 days.
Right,
That's a
like an
lot to
NBA
do.
schedule, and they're just not set up that
They're
way.
not they're not they're not like set up to do that. So they may if anything they may have to kind of maybe push March Madness back. Now I know that's something that they don't want to do. This if it doesn't want to do that, but if you
Hmm.
want to have a chance to have a fair tournament where everyone's on an equal playing field, you may not have a choice but to maybe if you have to push it back to start a couple of weeks. Hey, I know
Hmm.
CBS and Turner might be okay with that because I think that for them, last year's tournament was actually pretty solid, even though yes, you were in a bubble and you were
Hmm.
limited to how many folks can be in this. Nobody on the sidelines, no cheers on the sidelines. You can only limit how many people can be in the stands. So you probably are going to have to maybe play around with the schedule a little bit to kind of get Bill back into a rhythm. So especially with some schools like I said, UCLA, USC, they haven't played in like the last couple of weeks.
Hmm.
So, some teams are just now getting out of COVID, protocols. I know that a couple of Big Ten games on the women's side had to be postponed because of protocols who well, actually they've been canceled. So, that's yeah. So they're gonna have to both on the men's and the women's side, they probably are gonna have to sort of, shuffle some things.
We'll follow that situation as it warrants, because it seems, as we talked about it last week, Lakeena, especially during our show last Wednesday with the NFL, it seems like things change by the second, not by the minute or by the day or by the hour, but by the second. So we'll keep you abreast of the situation right here on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, with you wrapping up today's show. We still have a few minutes left, Lakeena, before I get to my Baker Mayfield dilemma. Did you know that Joe Montana is getting a documentary, Cool Under Pressure? The 6-part series will premiere on January 6th on the NBC Peacock app.
Yeah, I saw that about an hour ago, right before we started. So yeah, so actually this is gonna be on the Peacock app, it's kind of like a doc, I guess, a
Mm-hmm.
bio doc on Mr. Montana. So it's gonna air on Peacock. I'm sure it's gonna air on NBC at some point. It's gonna be premiering on January 6th. So I'm assuming that this will probably air on NBC like right before the Super Bowl, because since
I was just
NBC's
getting
got
ready
the
to say that. You know, they're
Super
gonna
Bowl
put
this
some of that
year.
on. Yep.
Yeah,
But
so
to
I'm
put
sure they're gonna
on
do that.
NBC.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna post it. I'm sure it'll be on. It's a 6-part series, which will premiere on January 6th, which is next weekend. So I'm thinking that maybe they may put some of this on NBC. They may air it, like I said, I think right before the Super Bowl. I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe look out for that. But yeah, this looks like it's a pretty interesting doc.
Yeah, and it's going to be produced by NFL Films. Of course, we all know what ESPN is doing right now with the Tom Brady documentary on ESPN Plus. Haven't checked it out yet. Have you?
No, I haven't. Did you check out John Madden's doc that aired on Christmas? I forgot, but it
I
actually
DVR'd it. We'll
you
talk about it
did.
on Wednesday, but I DVR'd it, so I'll watch it and we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Well, actually, I haven't watched. I actually forgot to record it. I didn't know because it came on before, and I was,
Mhm.
it was Christmas, so I'm busy doing other stuff. But it will stream on various streaming services starting January 3rd. So if you missed it, don't
Mhm.
worry. It'll be on ESPN Plus, Peacock, among others. So I guess I have Peacock. Also, too, it's going to be on Tubi TV, which is a free streaming service, that Fox owns. So if you have any of those platforms, you can go ahead. You'll have access to that John Madden doc on January 3rd.
We know that NFL Films does a terrific job producing documentaries and special
Mm-hmm.
programming. So I don't expect nothing but the best producing, coming up with this documentary about Joe Montana. I know some older heads, older than us, consider Montana to be the greatest quarterback of all time, ahead of Brady. But I wonder if they're going to touch light on that. If they're going to have a special episode on that, if they even ask them, do you consider yourself the greatest quarterback of all time, ahead of Brady, Elway, Marino, and Jim Kelly, and some of those other guys from his era?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do touch on it. Maybe he may not want to get into it. He might just say, "Hey, look, it's different eras." 'Cause that's unless something he would say. But yeah, I think they might touch on it. But again, I don't think they'll really dive deep into it. But we'll see.
Yeah, I just remember watching Joe Montana growing up. He was a very good quarterback. Of course, if you know the deeper story, the late Bill Walsh, who was the head coach of those 49ers teams through 1988,
Mm-hmm.
he wanted Joe Montana out of there, and rightfully so, because injuries started to amount to him. He was taking those big hits, and I just won't. I'll never forget that 1990 NFC title game between the 49ers and Giants. Of course, those two teams were rivals back then too, folks. And it turned
Mm-hmm.
out to be Joe Montana's last game as a 49er. Of course, the Giants upset the 49ers, and then, of course, upset the Buffalo Bills a week later in the Super Bowl 25. But Joe Montana spent the next 2 years on the injury list before signing with Kansas City prior to the 93 season. But I just look at Joe Montana like, how did he survive all that, especially during that 1990 NFC title game? To this day, that was the most physical NFC title game that I've ever seen. Remember, Jeff
Yep.
Hostetler got knocked out for the
Uh-huh.
Giants. He was replacing Phil Simms, who got knocked out toward the end of that season. And
Mm-hmm.
like, whew. But I was like, how did
Yeah.
Joe Montana survive that? And number two, looking at those 49ers teams through the 80s, if you're really a football historian, of course, you pay attention to this guy's name, Charles Haley, who's now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But outside of him, that defense for the 49ers gets no credit. They really
They
don't.
really, yeah, they really don't, unfortunately. And hopefully, maybe they'll delve into it. Maybe he'll mention it Also, too, I want to see that, not that there was a rivalry between him and Steve Young, but maybe,
Hmm.
once, especially as, Montana got older, he kind of got cast aside, they brought in
Hmm.
Young. I want to see how their relationship is. Hopefully they delve into that. But,
Hmm.
also his days at Notre Dame, we'll see if they mention his college days, because there were some things that happened there back in the late 70s. So, should be a good documentary, as it always is with NFL film docs. So, can't wait. Mark your calendars, folks. Like I said before, hopefully it'll be on the free Peacock service, not in the premium, but
Hmm.
but I'm sure it'll be available on other. I'm sure the big NBC network will probably air it at some point right before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm sure of that as well, since they have the Super Bowl this year. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color for a Monday, a Bears victory Monday, I guess. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney
Yay!
Brown. Last topic of the show as I stretch.
Mhm.
Pardon my unprofessionalism, folks. Here's the last topic to close out today's show. Going back to that Packers-Browns game on Saturday, Lakeena, as I was watching Baker Mayfield as he returned from, health and safety protocols, he threw those three interceptions in the loss to the Packers. I know there's many people that believe that the Cleveland Browns won't bring him back because of the price tag and the way he's played. Let's be honest here. Baker Mayfield, I believe, is a good quarterback, but I don't think him and the Cleveland Browns franchise are a match. We always saw they traded away OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., for those of you scoring at home. They traded him. They released him, and of course now Beckham's with the Rams doing his thing. But I was thinking about some realistic potential places that Baker Mayfield could go. I got a
Such
couple of
as
places. New
what?
Orleans,
Okay.
Seattle.
Okay.
Seattle should Russell Wilson and his now wife Sierra decides to move to chains, no pun intended. But I was thinking about this third place, and it could help him as we now looking at him in these progressive auto insurance commercials. Could Baker Mayfield work in New York with the New York Football Giants? I know some people would say, well, Sid, the news just came out that their head coach and Daniel Jones will come back for 2022. I think it's a realistic possibility that Baker Mayfield could end up in the New York Giants new uniform.
Hmm. Yeah, but just think about the pressures he'll have to go through from playing in New York. So I don't, especially if he has a bad game. I can see the Giants, media and their fans kind of just eat him up for lunch. Of course, you know how the New York media is. So
Mhm.
it's yeah. I mean, those are some interesting names. I mean, I'm trying to think. I can't really think of anywhere else there where he can go.
I think
I know some
football
people would
wise,
say the
the
Bears, but
Saints. The Saints, because
yeah, it's
you're getting
probably the
Michael
best fit.
Thomas back, the wide receiver next year, and you still have a pretty good defense led by Cam Jordan.
Yeah, I could kind of see. Like I said, I can't really think of any other team. I think he would probably be a better fit for. I know some people would probably say the Bulls, but let's also remember too. I mean the Bears, I should say, but let's remember, they already have a young quarterback. Now again, they are going to have a veteran QB to kind of sort of not really to guide him, but kind of say what feels I'm talking about next year. So do you really want Baker
Yeah,
to be kind of like that guy? So that's going to be another thing. But yeah, those are
I
probably
have
like the
another
only fits
team,
I can think of. Who?
Denver. It'll take John Elway
Yeah, I
off the
mean, I
hook
think
for
who
now.
knows. Yeah, for a minute, and of course, Bridgewater, he can't. That poor guy can't stay healthy, so you can't really depend on
Mm.
him. Drew Lock, I mean, you really want to try to give him more time to develop, but you really don't know what to expect from him. So I don't know about that, but yeah, those are probably the only best fits I can think of. I mean, San Fran, but I don't know. Do you think John Lynch
Trey
would want to be
Lance is
bothered
there.
with that
That's
kind
why.
of?
Yeah,
Yeah. Also, too, I think, do you think John Lynch? I don't think he wants to be bothered with all that drama. Well, not that he brings
yeah,
drama. I'm talking about Mayfield, but I don't think he wants to
right.
deal with all that. He's already dealing with it now with Jimmy G versus Trey Lance. Baker versus
Yeah,
Lance. I mean that'll be even worse. But yeah, I mean, Minnesota, no, maybe I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
I'll
it's
say
gonna.
no with Minnesota for right now, but I would say Miami, and that was one of the first couple of teams that popped up in my head. But Miami, especially if and when this offseason issues will get resolved one way or the other this coming offseason, Deshaun Watson, Miami, Baker Mayfield with the Dolphins, but the Dolphins, especially with their owner Stephen Ross, he wants to go all in for Deshaun Watson. I don't think Miami would pick up Baker Mayfield, but the Dolphins are in for Deshaun Watson. So I said Baker Mayfield with the Dolphins, maybe, but as of right now, I would say no to the Dolphins for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, those are probably the only fits I can kind of see. I mean, Houston, I know you don't know what you're gonna get with Houston. Yeah, that's basically pretty much it. I mean, I can't really think of any other team. I mean, the Jets already have Zach Wilson, so I don't think that's that's not going to be an issue for them. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes because I don't think he's going to stay in Cleveland. I just don't think it's happening, especially if they do end up missing the playoffs, which they probably will. But yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see where he goes if he doesn't end up staying in Cleveland.
One wild card team, no pun intended, to keep your eye on, and for a possible landing spot for Baker Mayfield, Las Vegas. Yeah. I'm not calling it, but I'm just saying keep that in the back of your mind.
You don't know where Derek Carr is going to go.
Exactly.
They may not pick his contract up. Yeah, I can kind of see that too.
Especially with his personality.
It fits Vegas.
Yeah.
It fits in Vegas. So, yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that. But, yeah, like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes because I think, there's probably are going to be various teams that are going to vie for his services. So, we'll keep you guys updated on that.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a very interesting story to look out for in the off season.
Yeah, a couple of anecdotes, a couple of nuggets, I should say, before we get up out of here. We got less than 2 minutes left. The lines for Week 17 of the NFL has just been released. Guess what? Your Chicago Bears are favored by 6 points over the New York Giants.
6, okay.
You cannot make this stuff up, folks. So the Bears are early 6-point favorites against a bad New York football Giants team. And I just got this notification from ESPN. Matt Nagy under assumption that he'll coach the Bears' final 2 games this season. As we told you guys, don't be shocked if that happens, and don't be shocked if they win one of these next 2 games or win both of them. As Lakeena said, that they may keep him. But you would think that the Bears will cave in no matter what happens these next 2 weeks, that they'll do the right thing. But until I see it, I don't believe them. Remember, folks, we're talking about the McCaskies here.
Like I said before, I mean, we'll be interesting to see, what they do because there's a reason why they didn't say the contract extensions. They didn't say like what the terms were. So, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, what happens these next 2 games because they could, like I said, they could win both of these games and end up getting retained. So I think people need to kind of be prepared for that. Just saying.
I guess this is what happens when you have a 7-10 record, assuming they win the next 2 games, and this is what you get on a bad franchise. Little crap. On that note, thank you so much for listening to Second City Sports right here live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. That's Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Shout out to our good buddy Armando. We'll see you on Wednesday too, Armando. You've been a great supporter of ours since we've been over here at Sports Zone Chicago. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure you catch us at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms to listen to the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports. And make sure you follow War Media at WAR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And make sure you catch Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, every Monday, every Friday, live from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll catch you this Wednesday for our last show of 2021. So a special edition of Second City Sports. That's in less than 2 days. We'll be back on Wednesday with a surprise guest right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's this Wednesday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for our last show of 2021. You do not want to miss it.
All right. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. Hope you got everything you guys wanted for Christmas. And be good to each other. And look, wear your mask and wash your hands and mind your business, as they say. So you can
Mind
listen
your
to
business.
you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you. Remember, Wednesday, folks.
At high noon. Till then, take care. See you Wednesday. Holla.